Mother, Mother Ocean, I have heard you call. I wanted to sail upon your waters since I was 3 feet tall. You've seen it all. You've seen it all. Watch the men roll.
One Saturday morning near the end of August, while Mike and I were preparing to get underway, we heard busy-type noises coming from the direction of Pea Gravel Dune. Although the sound was not loud at Marsh Harbor, we could tell that there was much activity going on. It seemed a bit early for the non-resident strangers that came for their weekend swim parties. Besides, they normally played on and swam around Monkey Island. This commotion clearly came from the opposite direction. The light breeze carried faint voices, the crunching of tires on gravel, various other clanking and clunking sounds. Something else, too. Was that the sound of an outboard motor, I thought? Yes, I think it was. In all the time we had been plying the lake, we had not once seen or heard an outboard boat. An occasional rowboat, but never any power boats. There was more than one, too. Within a few minutes the air was heavy with the low growl of at least a half a dozen. Wow! What is going on? We asked each other. There was only one way to find out. Launch Operation Recon.
I have been talking now for over 2 weeks. Passed out at a rally and I sprung a few leaks. But I got to stop wishing. Gotta go fishing and down the rock bottom again with just a few friends.
We hastily made way for the channel and the open lake beyond. Poling is a slow process, however, and before we could reach the south channel, the several boats had gone in different directions. Just as we cleared the marsh and entered the channel, a 14-foot John boat powered by a 25-horsepower Johnson came blazing straight for us. Not being particularly familiar with the official rules of the road, and not caring at that moment, we did the only logical thing we could have. We jumped. The two guys in the boat were just as startled as we were. Neither one of them jumped, but they both yelled loudly. I cannot repeat exactly what it was they yelled. Let's just say it was some sort of an expletive, or two. The man driving turned hard starboard while also throttling down. This action sent a large surge of water toward our abandoned raft. Similar to a tsunami clearing a shore, this wave set our deck awash and sent everything over the side. Once back on board and everything back in its place, the men approached us slowly. What in the heck is that thing? One of them asked. It looks like an oil drum, said the other. Yeah, that's what it is, I said. Are you boys crazy? Do you really use that thing for a raft? Sure, I answered. Why not? You guys could get killed like that, the driver said. Having made his point, he applied full throttle and sped away in the direction of Monkey Island before we could inquire as to their activities on the lake. Setting our course north by northeast, we slowly poled our way toward the small inlet that sat in front of Pea Gravel Dune. We had spotted a small wooden boat with a single occupant that we hoped would be friendlier. He was. Drifting up to him from the leeward side, we anchored off his port bow. He told us that they were all members of a small sport fishing club and that they held a tournament on this lake the same weekend every year. He too was curious about our rig, though in a nicer way than the first two men had been. He laughed a little, but complimented us on our ability to improvise. Mike and I both liked this guy. We told him how we lived on the lake and about our recent success using Fish Trap 1. He seemed taken aback, somewhat puzzled by our tale. Assuring him that we were telling the truth, we offered to show him our secret spot below Old Craterface. He said that he had never won the tournament anyway, had nothing to lose, and so agreed. He even offered us a ride in a small boat and a tow for the SS Texaco. We eagerly accepted. We quickly rigged our raft for towing. Suggestive of a tugboat hauling a barge, his small outboard handily pulled the drum in the direction Mike had pointed. Making the trip under power versus poling, the trip took only a few minutes instead of the usual 20 or so. Mike guided him to the shadowed area with the clear, deep water, where we dropped anchor on both vessels. Our new friend reached into his generously stocked tackle box and retrieved a shiny new lure. We, on the other hand, gently lowered Fish Trap 1 into position. Before he could finish rigging his line and cast, Mike was already recovering our trap, complete with a nice 10-inch bass. Man, was he surprised. He had been so preoccupied with preparing his line that he had failed to observe our unique fishing technique. With a look of bewilderment visible in his eyes, he asked if we could repeat our routine. "We can use this method to catch fish all day," I boasted. "Show me," he said. With the challenge having been issued, I sent our reliable old trap into the abyss yet again. Our buddy watched closely as the cage settled on the bottom. Resembling school children being let out on recess, a variety of fish swarmed the basket. Buddy looked on in astonished silence. Wanting to show off now, I kept the trap door down until an appropriately sized fish came into view. One hand gently rocked the cage back and forth so that the bright washer sent shimmers of light in every direction. With the other hand, I opened and closed the door in a teasing fashion each time this larger fish approached. Never before had either of us tried to use any additional movement to attract our prey. We should have. Anyone who has fished on a regular basis knows that every lake, stream, or pond has its resident granddaddy fish. So it was on our lake, too. It might be a big trout, pike, or catfish that never seemed to get caught, but on this body of water it was a very large bass. Mike and I thought that we had seen him, though infrequently. As I continued the mesmerizing actions, the long, dark silhouette of this deep-water predator emerged from somewhere below the cracky overhang. Looking like a submarine, his bulk and beam were impressive. The other fish that had been scrutinizing our trap suddenly seemed more interested in their respective well-being than they were in the shiny washer. Without exception, they darted clear of this aquatic fiend, leaving him alone to survey what he will. Our buddy exclaimed excitedly, "Look at that guy! That's got to be the granddaddy! Easy now, boys, don't lose him!" Flushed with anticipation, I deliberately pulled open the door to the cage. Seemingly in a hypnotic trance, this big fish eased slowly toward the bait. Poking his head partially inside caused his sides to rub against the side of the door. This startled him and caused a momentary retreat. Perhaps wanting to save face with the assembled audience, maybe just wanting what he thought must be something special, he returned to the scene. Cautiously, he evaluated the situation. It was obvious that he wanted the dangling object that had so enticed him, but he was distrustful too. He was not accustomed to being touched and was careful to approach the still open door of the cage. Suddenly, with a powerful thrust from his tail, he torpedoed toward the opening. I don't know if this caused him to slim down or if he just generated enough forward momentum, but he darted through the trap door and swallowed the washer whole. Whoopee! Yahoo! That was our buddy this time. You got him, he hollered. Bring him up, fellas. Let's have a look, he said. Mike started reeling in the phenomenal trap. As it broke water, the thrashing of the big beast started a cage rocking to and fro, so that it looked like a bell swinging in a tower. It was much heavier than it ever had been, and he struggled getting it to the deck. Drawn by the uproar of their fishing partner, other boats soon arrived to probe the cause of the disturbance. Almost immediately, the little cove was crammed with a dozen men on several different boats. None of them could believe what our new best buddy was describing as a remarkable fishing performance. Some of them scoffed at our little raft and proclaimed some sort of hoax. Others looked on in stunned disbelief. The proof was right there in front of them, still thrashing about in the cage. Could it really be? It was. After much hullabaloo, the other men in the club reluctantly acknowledged that we had indeed caught the biggest fish that any of them had ever seen in the 10 years that they had been fishing this lake. Many of them grumbled that it just wasn't right that a couple of boys could steal away what they perceived as their rightful prize. Although most of the men grudgingly offered their congratulations and went about their way, our friend dutifully acclaimed our catch as a great accomplishment. Once the other boats had left the area and proceeded back to whence they came, Buddy stated that he was going to continue fishing Old Craterface. Maybe old Granddaddy has a brother hiding somewhere down there, he said. I'm sure going to try and flush him out if he does. Having said that, he went about attaching his lure and preparing for a cast in that direction. Mike and I pondered the circumstances in which we now found ourselves. We had obviously stolen the thunder of everyone in the club. Even though we had the largest catch, we were not members of their club and therefore could not receive whatever prize had been offered. Our new friend, on the other hand, was a member, and as he had been so nice to us, we wanted him to win. Upon talking it over, we decided to present our catch to him. Easing our way over to his little outboard, I pulled the Granddaddy from Fish Trap 1 and offered him up. Buddy seemed genuinely surprised by our generosity. Mike and I each expressed to him our thanks and appreciation as the reason for our gift. He considered the proffer and almost accepted. Almost. Thanks, fellas, but I can't, he said, after a lengthy pause. It's awfully nice of you, but winners never cheat, and cheaters never win. You caught him, he's rightfully yours. The finality of his statement ended the conversation. Feeling somewhat forlorn over the rejection of our offer, we weighed anchor and got under way for home port. During the passage, we considered how we might yet help this true sportsman to win. There was only one way. We had to release this creature back into the depths from which he had come, and hope that Buddy would get lucky enough to snare him with the shiny new lure.
Be happy.